Of it all, untouchable, a new animal. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeremy LaRose. This is LSH Live. We are back from Congress, and we're so excited to get started on these videos again, give you guys the best that we know how to give. What do you think of the new intro? Super excited about that. This Patreon deal has really taken off. It's been a lot of fun, and I have you guys to thank for that. So thank you so much for being a part of these. In this video, we're going to be doing a little bit of body control, and I have so much footage from the Congress that I wanted to start with this one so you guys could see what Peanut looked like before the Congress. So you're going to see a big difference between what she looks like here in these videos, and we rode her when we got back home, and she was incredible, just a different animal. So I wanted to walk you through my basic ride here, my average standard daily ride. We're going to talk about the things that she does right, things that she does wrong. This is a 2-year-old. Now that it is the end of Congress, the end of our show season, we can kind of take a step back and look at all of our fundamentals, look at our different buttons and our different things that our horse has to do, and just kind of make sure that she's paying attention, right? Make sure that our buttons work the way that we expect them to work. To me, training a horse is like building a house. So in order to build a great house, you have to start with great tools. So no matter how skilled your builder is, if your tools don't work, so if your saw has dull teeth, or your hammer doesn't work, the handle's broken, or your drill drills backwards, then even if you put the screw in the right place, even if you put the drill to the screw and it's in the right spot, it's not going to work. So you need to go back through and make sure that your spurs and your hands actually mean what you think they mean, because that's a big shift in our horse, right? So when we go to our feet, we expect our horse to move away from pressure. A lot of the times what happens is it moves away from pressure and something else happens. 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a push or lean somewhere else in their horse's body. So we've got to make sure that our horse doesn't push or lean against us through the training process, right? So your foot might be doing 2 things at once. It might be actually moving their hip over, but then the problem that you run into is that it moves its hip over and it goes forward, and its neck comes up, and it shoves it against your hands. So we've got to make sure that those things don't happen when we ride. So we go through, we're just going to warm this horse up a little bit. My warm up involves making sure my horse doesn't push on my hands. I want to get her legs warmed up. We're going to push out our jog here, a little bit extended jogging, make sure she's soft in her face, and then I can actually drive her up. So I don't want to start with my horse's feet down in the dirt. So I want her to get up off my spurs. You can see me bumping and tapping here, asking her to come up out of the dirt. So I'm putting some energy into my horse. I'm going to use that energy to drive her back end up into her face. So you can see just kind of shuffling my hands. I'm going to stay pretty close to her mouth throughout this whole ride. So as this ride progresses, I want you to watch how I stay close with my hands. You're not going to see me bump. We're going to rub and roll this horse a lot. If she shoves on me, if she pushes against my hands or my bit as I do this rubbing and rolling, then we're going to shut it down. So right here, she shoves against my hands. I'm going to back her off, just set her back up, say, hey, don't push against my hands. We're going to try this lateral move again. If she goes to lope off or she gets confused, we're going to back her off, set her back up, drive her hind legs forward, and ask her to step across again. If she lopes, I'm just going to stay in. And I think I showed you guys this on Marley. If she lopes off, we're going to stay in until we get what we want and then drop out. So that lateral move, those side pass moves for me, big deal. Encourages my horse to travel sideways off my spurs rather than go forward. So everything that I can do here to encourage my horse to step up and over rather than go forward when I put my spurs in. So I'm always evaluating how much back pressure off my hands do I have to have here. If she'll step across, like right here, those legs really travel together, they're connected, then I'm great. I'm happy with that. I'm going to pick back up. We're going to move back over. I want to not have to block as much as possible. So, and really what I'm looking for is I want my horse to be able to drive into the rein, right? So as I lateral over, I want to be able to bump what would be my right hand and push her into my right hand, drive her to her face. And if I can do that, then I should have a lot of body control when I'm loping. So the idea here, like we talked about with Marley, is to be able to put our head and our hip on the same side. So a lot of the times our horses will get away from us by pulling their head to the outside of their lope, and that's not going to actually get their hind end underneath of them. So as I circle around here, I want her to sit on her back end. I want her to keep her hip on the inside of this circle. You can see where she starts a little bit tight here. We're going to counter canter this. So anytime my horse tightens her legs down, we're going to move into a counter canter. I'm a huge believer in the counter canter. This is kind of what our horse looks like. It's what it starts like. So we use the counter canter a lot to open up our legs on the outside of the circle. So it really forces your horse to stand on these left front legs in this circle and sling her right side around. Open up her right side, stride around the right, and stand on the left. So right here you can kind of see she leans a little bit to the left. I want her to stand up. I want to be able to pick up my left hand and shift her weight off of the left front onto the right front. So I'll kind of use that in rhythm with my horse to get her to step over and across here. Using this, kind of working my right hand, driving her onto a straight line, trying to bring her chin closer to the point of her shoulder all the time. So if I can bring her chin to the point of her shoulder, then she breaks in half. The basic idea behind getting a horse round is that we bring their hock and their chin closer together. So you can see where she kind of wants to keep her hock and her chin far away from each other. As I go into the counter canter here, she shoves forward on me. I'm going to back this off. I'm actually trying to back her in a shape here. So there, she kind of gives to that where she submits that shape and says, okay, there, you can have my chin now. That's what I'm looking for. So there she got soft. We're going to step back up. This is a lateral move into a lope off, right back into that same shape. Asking her to stay up off my hands. There she submits a little bit there. That's softer. So giving across here, asking my horse to get into this shape and not fall inside or outside of my circle. She can't go either one. She's got to stay right between my hands and my feet. So my feet are keeping her up on the outside of this circle, and my hands are asking her head and neck to come to the inside of the circle. So really looking for good straight lines here from the point of her shoulder down to the ground. So you see her lean into the circle a lot here. Her right lead is left than her left lead. So coming across here, asking her to get better on this right lead, stepping up, little lateral move into a lope off again. We try not to lope off straight ahead. Still encouraging this horse to come up and across with us. So on this particular horse, and Peanut here, she always loped a little bit better to the left than the right. So coming across and asking her to extend that right front leg so we get that nice full fluid stride. So coming around here again, we're going to ask for that head and neck on this left side, keeping the body up on the outside of the circle. I want to really test this position, see if she'll stay up off my left leg, and make sure that I can pick up her outside shoulder when I come across with my hand. That's going to be really important as we go on to the next couple weeks here. You'll see a big change in how we were able to stand this horse's shoulders up, and then how she holds herself as she lopes around. So as I come through here on this circle, I'm going to practice going to my foot a little bit. So once I've got my horse to where she kind of stands up between my reins, I'm going to go to my outside leg on the regular lead circle and ask her hip to stay on the inside. If I can pick up her shoulders and hold the shape between my reins, then I should be able to isolate her hip right here and ask her to step deeper underneath herself with her hock. Really like my results here. See this horse kind of starting to break in half. We're going to combine both sides of this circle. So here we're going to work a little bit on our hip control, make sure we can open that up, make sure we can stand up our shoulders between our hands. Remember, we're working on two different ideas here. One is hip control off my foot. The other is shoulder control and body control off my reins. So do your shoulders stay between my hands and my feet? Can I stand them up here? And then can I put your hip on the inside of the circle? So the way to test that hip control, get those hands in front of you. You see I slide my hands forward here, ask her to come up with her body, and then through with her hips. So there she gets a little bit confused. She starts shaking her head. She pushes on my hands. So as I came up with my hands instead of back towards my hips, I was able to identify a lot of that push. And if you only hold your horse back by your hips, you're not going to find that lean. You're not going to find that push. So getting those hands up in front of us to where we're drawing that jaw up into the air, into the space between her neck and her front legs, right into her chest there, then I'm not going to hold her back, which will be a horse that when I put her down, she'll stay with me a lot easier. And you don't get that kind of surge as soon as you put your hands down on your horse. So up here, just kind of shuffling my hands, ask this hip to stay on the inside, bracing up with my right hand so she can't fall over with her ribs and her shoulder. So that way I can really isolate her hips a little bit here. There's a good move. So coming around and really making her stand on this inside hind. I really like this move for getting this horse balanced. We kind of combine this figure eight. And again, anytime she pushes on my hands, we're just going to back this off. I really like an indirect turn here. This lateral lope off again. You see me keep my left hand contact so she can't stride forward with her left front leg. And that's a huge deal. Remember we talked before about the way to achieve a balanced lope is to keep this left front under control. She cannot step forward with her left front. So a lot better stop, a lot better backup right there. We're going to switch a little bit here. We'll pick up our left lead. So you see that lateral move into a lope off. I was pretty satisfied with our right lead right there. So we're going to switch gears. We're going to go to the work on this left side a little bit. I really like the way she operates on this left side better than the right side. She tends to give me a little bit softer lope here. And because of that, you see her slow down a ton. So this left lead just tends to be a bit more rhythmic, a bit softer. You see how I can pick up and make those body moves a little easier this way. She really throws her front leg out this way. We are going to have to work on this push though. So this is going to be an overarching idea. So always back, stop, turn it around, back it up, turn it around, and lope off. So if she goes to push or lean on me, so I must have picked up my left hand there, felt a little bit of push, I'm going to turn it around. So whether that's a direct turn or indirect turn, it's going to be some kind of maneuver to fix the push and lean, and then I go right back to the maneuver. So you can kind of work that two ways. The first train of thought is that you work through it and you just kind of stay there. The second train of thought is my horse should know the difference, it should know better, and I'm just going to call the mistake, fix it, and go right back to work. So for me on this left lead, it's time to call mistakes. It's a little bit less time to kind of hold her hand and guide her through it, although both strategies have merit. So usually when I'm first teaching this stuff, I'll compensate for the horse a little bit. I'll hold her hand and kind of ask her to come with me. If she pushes or leans on me, I just make a mental note of it and move on unless it gets too bad. But this horse, now that we're a little bit past that hand holding stage, now it's time to stay rocked back onto your hips. So it's going to be a lot more turning around, a lot more asking her to stay around underneath of me, and a little bit less holding her hand through it. So really like that lope off right there, really stepped underneath of me well, not shoving on my hands. You see this horse kind of starting to hold herself up. She's not leaning forward. You see a little bit of slack in the reins. So coming across here, we're going to pick our hands back up, ask that hip to come on the inside. That's a good move right there. Really like this line, except where she shoves to the right on me right there. So we're going to get this under control by this indirect turn. So the indirect turn is huge to me. Get this right front back underneath of her. See how she's got to swing her left around her right. And really respect my reins, stay between my hands and my feet. Lope back off out of that. And I use those indirect turns a ton. I think that we started using those a lot more as we went into Congress, and loved the difference that it made in my horse. So it was cool to see how much that can change things. It was a maneuver I didn't use much on this horse. We kind of started introducing it this month, and huge difference because of it. So using this indirect turn, absolutely massive to me. Getting this horse to stay between both hands and both feet. So kind of looking to earn some respect out of my left leg and make sure that she honors my calf. So really like that lope off, really like that lope. Reach down and pet her, let her know she did a good job. And now we're going to switch to working on the right lead the same kind of way. So indirect turn again, set this up. She kind of leans forward through this lope off. We're going to shut that down, call it again, approach that transition again, make sure we get a little bit more respect. Use your back and operate off of your hips rather than lean forward in my hands. So it's a little head pop there. That's a better lope off. We're going to let her lope out of that one. Remember, we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for a horse that lets us put her a little bit more in shape and in position as we go on. I don't try to dictate to this horse where she has to be. What I need is I need it to be a little bit better every single time. The analogy that I kind of use a lot is, if you think about when you were learning to write and they gave you this sheet and showed you what a letter A was, they gave you a pencil and that you practice, and your little letter A didn't look anything like the letter A that they gave you. And the teacher just kind of came back and said, no, here's how you want to do it. Let you try again. And it still didn't look like it. And it was only through the process of repetition that you were able to start making your letter A match the letter A that was given to you. And they showed you the little dotted lines, and every time they said, okay, if you make a line here, and then follow the middle dotted line, your A will look like the A that we're looking for. And that's kind of the approach that I take with my 2-year-olds. I want them to just attempt it, give it a shot, and try to get as close to the lope off or the shape or the position that I'm trying to get to. And I'll just help them through it for the vast majority of the first 1,000 times. So that was kind of a 15-minute ride there, a little bit of workout, a little bit of training. As I cool this horse out, we're going to pick up. We're just going to push your hips and body around. I like to do this kind of stuff at the end of my ride, as well as the beginning of my ride. So in the beginning, I'm just making a note of where I'm going to start for the day. It's going to kind of dictate whether I work left lead or right lead more, or if I do more counter cantering, or if I do more backing up or more turning. That kind of determines the flow and the pace of my ride. Once I've got my horse kind of sweaty and I've got her the fresh off of her, then my ride kind of becomes working on fundamentals. So we're just going to retouch on those things, ask her to give her hips up, move her body around, just get a little bit of sharpness into my buttons. And this really is more for tomorrow's ride than anything. I don't believe that you can train on a fresh horse, so we want to burn some of that energy off through like the physical aspect of our workout, and then consider this like the yoga or the stretching or kind of the cool down aspect of our ride. So our rides, as you've seen through all these videos, end up being about 20 minutes of horse training, maybe 5 minutes of warm up, maybe 10 minutes of cool out and refresher. So this is setting up for my ride for tomorrow. You see that we don't do a whole lot of like pounding on our horse. If you can give it 15, 20 minutes of focused workout, that to me is all a horse can in one ride. So whether we make it 2 15-minute rides for the day or this 30-minute workout is all Peanut got, that's how I progress. So that's the program that works for me. I think it works best for a lot of people. You've seen like the 20-minute workouts on YouTube if you're a bodybuilder or anything like that. It's enough to get you progress without burning you out. So I don't think, and in my experience, I've seen a lot of horses get very angry and very upset after a 45-minute ride or an hour-long ride. So I like to keep it fresh and exciting for my horse. I don't like to pound on them. A lot of these, especially mares, can't handle that. So I want to take a horse, I want to give them new information, give them a 30-minute workout, and then be done. And that's the end of my ride. That's the end of my workout. And it keeps my horses fresher minded, I think. And it doesn't get to where this feels like a chore or a job. I think when you get to pounding too much, you get too much repetition in there, the horse's ears get sour, they lose their expression, and they just don't enjoy it as much. So the end of my ride, just pushing these hips around, refreshing the counter canter stuff that I started with, and just checking on things for the next ride. If I put my horse down and I ask her to stop and stand still and she doesn't take a big puff and just relax, we go back to work. But you can see where this horse got sweaty for the day. That's a good solid workout. If she's focused, if you compare her between now and the beginning of my ride, where she was really shaking her head a lot, she was worried about the flies, not really focused on what I was asking her to do, then I keep working. But for me, I've got a horse that's a lot more focused on the workout. I had a good solid physical maneuver today, and I'm not going to push this to the point where she's tired and she starts making mistakes only because she's exhausted. So that's today's video, guys. I want you to focus on getting body control over your horses and just testing your buttons. So if this kind of helps you see what a typical workout for me is, how we go through that progression, how we go through the average everyday ride, on our 2-year-old. In the next video coming up, we're going to go a lot deeper into what goes into that counter canter. We're going to break that down a little bit smoother for you guys so you can see what mistakes will happen in your horse and your own riding. So going into that counter canter and getting a little bit deeper dive into that. So awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. Being a supporter is huge to us. We love doing this stuff, and we will see you in the next video.